Ambiguity, when you expect something to happen and then it takes a sudden turn and something else happens. But a lot of times this happens in a way that is pleasing. How ambiguity is used in music and how people like composers or music enthusiasts often use the word ambiguity a lot, but not a lot of people actually take time to explain what it means. And a lot of people are left in the shadows of not knowing what this very useful expressive word means. You expect something to happen kind of and it takes a turn. So like in a song, if you hear like a do da do da do da da, then all of a sudden it goes do da da do da da do da da. It's like whoa, it played on still the structure of what was originally there and it kept the same structure, and then it kind of went outside of it and pulled back into it to then create in two lengths of the beat. If you noticed, it went in the beginning of the first one and then it kind of woo did its own thing, and then in the start of the second one it was still doing its own thing, and then it pulled back at the end. So you still got the same amount of length, but then at the same time, and it's still a structure, but it went outside of the original melody and harmonics. So that's ambiguity right there, but as you see, oftentimes it fits a certain sort of structure still. So to further more go on to songs about the ambiguous nature of songs a lot, to talk about like think about like Mozart's 40th Symphony and how a lot of it's very motivic, and you get a motive, and it sort of creates variations of that motive throughout it, and at the same time it just takes the motive and sometimes just shortens part of it and puts in a different section there or something or blah blah blah. It's playing around with this motive, with this melody, and it's doing all these variations and all this stuff, and it's very nice. Ambiguity oftentimes plays on the natural intuition that one has about like things about how many times one wants to hear something. So let's say you're hearing like a song and it has like a random kind of noise in it that kind of sticks out compared to the rest of it. Like if there's like a triangle. I don't have a triangle, so I'm just gonna I'll do this actually. Yeah, it's good enough. So my highlighter and my razor blade. So I'll send the songs do 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 do. No, that actually fits in good. But imagine like a do 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 do, and then the rest of it just stops doing that do 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 do. You don't hear it anymore. Maybe again you hear it a few more times, but if the whole song do 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 to 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 do do. So it's like you'd get tired of that because it's just like a loud whack every time. But if you hear it once and then you hear it again, you might be like, I kind of wanted to hear that again. And you hear the third time, and a lot of times it's three or four. It's not. Sometimes it's two, and sometimes it's one, and it's probably more often one than it is two. Two's kind of rare. If you really pay attention, you listen to a lot of songs. You hear a lot of songs doing something once, and they won't do it again. Okay, it's whatever. But then they'll do it three times, and then it'll stop. And like I was kind of continuing from what I was explaining before, by the third time a lot, you kind of it might start pushing that. You might start getting kind of tired of it. So it's approaching the third noise that's kind of disruptive or whatever, and you're like, okay, like I don't know if I really want to hear that again. And the next time it doesn't, and you'll notice a lot of songs do this. Or you'll hear something and you'll kind of like it, but let's say it's kind of repetitive maybe, or it's kind of plain bagel or whatever. Then you'll hear it, and then let's say on the fourth time, then all of a sudden you won't hear it anymore. So it's like, okay, I kind of like that. It kind of fit in with it, but then it kind of just, goes away. And this is the ambiguity of music, to where it oftentimes plays on what the person probably personalized making it, but then also goes to the listener, what they actually intuitively sort of feel when they're listening to it or when they're maybe making it. That okay, when I hear this sound this many times. I'm kind of getting tired of it, so I'll stop doing it. And you'll notice a lot of times it's that number 3 or it's that number 4. And oftentimes, like I was saying, with something that gets kind of maybe pushing the dynamical or harmonics of what's going on at the time, oftentimes it will be that number 3, which I find very interesting, because by the third time it's kind of pushing it. You already heard it the second time. It already reinforced that you heard that it, yes, it was on purpose, and by the third time it's okay, it was, yes, you're doing it again now. And then it goes away, then all of a sudden that can actually be a good thing for the listener, just like how in music, how you have dissonance and consonance, and if you only had dissonance in a song, you only had tritones and stuff, then it would be like, holy, it would be spooky, but no resolution. And instead of that, the whole contrast and balance of music has to do with a lot of times these polarities. So there's a balance and also polarity to expecting what's going to happen and not expecting what can happen. And you can go in within, of course, the ranges of these polarities at any degree. And it's like within that, it's probably good to also balance things, but it creates a dramatic effect to also go in the polarities of the minimum of polarity and to the extreme of a polarity to really give, like I was saying, emphasis or drama to certain things that have quiet and softer energy to them, or things that have loud and powerful energy to them. Okay, so one last note about ambiguity is that it does not only occur in a song in like certain added parts, but it actually happens within the entirety of the song itself. So a lot of times a song will have like a certain, it could be like a motive, but it could be longer, like a certain passage that you hear, and it's a, let's say, sort of repeating chord progression to where the melody is doing a certain thing. It goes up here, it goes up there, it goes down and up, and then it goes back to there. Okay, and you keep hearing this repeated chord progression, and it could be the chord progression, or it could, let's say, for example, an actual copy and pasted melody throughout the entirety of the song that you keep hearing. And okay, it's basically like the personality of the song. So you're hearing this personality of the song, but at some points of it, it randomly will get cut short, and you'll expect it to keep going, and then it doesn't. Certain things like that. Or sometimes randomly you'll get started from the middle part of it, or whatever's going on. A lot of times it'll be in a way that you can actually comprehend it as the listener. But sometimes it actually takes you paying attention to the song, understanding, let's say, the melody, and then seeing that, okay, they're cutting it short or fragmenting it or whatever they're doing. And understanding this nature of the ambiguity of music really is a fundamental aspect of a lot of people's favorite songs. So next time you're listening to music, pay attention to those melodies, chord progressions, and kind of what's going on within the song. Pay attention to how sometimes you don't get the full thing, or maybe you actually get an extension of it. Maybe you get a slightly different version of what you already heard, and it's just changed up a little bit. Or maybe you can tell that it comes from the original, but it evolves way past it, or it already is stretched way past the moon of what it originally was. Whatever it is, it's something good to pay attention to, whether you just like listen to music, or if you are actually interested in being a musician or creating your own music.